I smelled an omega at 9:14 a.m. A real one, which should be medically impossible. In Lyragen, everything that could be felt is regulated. Temperature, humidity, blood pressure, serotonin levels, pheromones. The whole messy spectrum of being alive, flattened into graphs and green check marks on a monitor. That's the point. We're the flagship facility of the suppression program. No spikes, no surprises, no real sense. I sit at my desk and stare at the timestamp on the holo display. 9:14. The clinic hums around me in that low antiseptic way, filtered air sighing through vents. The distant whine of centrifuges, the soft click of rubber-soled shoes in the hallway. Somewhere down the corridor, an automated voice reminds patients not to eat for 6 hours before their next blood draw. I've worked here for 8 years. In all that time, I haven't smelled anything but sanitizer, cheap coffee, and the faint metallic tang of recycled air. Even the alphas who used to walk around like thunderstorms now move through the building as quiet as ghosts. The vaccine did that. Suppressed unnecessary instincts. Smoothed us all out. Except me. I close my eyes and inhale again, just to prove to myself I'm not hallucinating. There it is. Warm, bright, and unmistakable. Like sliced peaches left on a sunlit balcony, with something sharper underneath. A live wire sweetness that curls under my ribs and drags my attention like a hook. An omega. I open my eyes. My heart doesn't speed up. My expression doesn't change. The years have carved restraint into my bones. But my fingers tighten around the stylus until the casing creaks. It's not possible. I tell myself. Every registered omega in this city is on a mandatory suppression schedule. Every dose, every injection, logged and monitored. Compliance is at 99.8%, and the remaining 0.2%. We don't talk about them. I stare at the patient schedule hovering above my desk. 9:10, Halden, Seth. Routine evaluation, omega. Suppressed. Status, stable. Of course, the door chimes softly. A polite little note before the panel slides aside. Mr. Halden, I say, already composing my professional mask. Come in, and then my mask almost cracks. Because the scent isn't just a trace now, it's a wave. It hits me as he steps over the threshold, warm and bright, and so wrong. In this place that my body reacts before my mind can shut it down. My shoulders tense, my jaw clenches, and something old and buried lifts its head inside my chest. He looks nothing like a compliant patient from the program study ads. He's wearing a mustard yellow t-shirt with a print of a sleeping fox, a faded denim, jacket thrown over it, and black jeans with faint smears of paint near the pockets. His brown hair curls slightly at the ends, like he forgot to tame it after a shower, and decided it was good enough. His eyes, warm, deep brown, flick around the room, land on me, and sharpen with interest. There are dimples in his cheeks when he smiles. Of course there are. Morning, he says lightly, and the word curls in the air, threaded with that impossible scent. You must be Dr. Gray. Grayson. I correct automatically. Dr. Grayson Hale. Sit down. He steps closer to the chair across from my desk, then veers off at the last second, wandering toward the sensor unit mounted on the wall. He studies it like he's thinking about taking it apart. The file said 25. He looks younger at first glance, the kind of easy, careless young that doesn't belong in clinical halls. But his gaze is older, a little too focused, like he's counting exits. I watch him through the thin overlay of his chart, which I expand with a flick of my fingers. Seth Halden. Omega. Registered. Suppression course started at 19. Vaccinations updated as of 3 months ago. 3 months. Enough for the last dose to still be in full effect. Enough for him to smell like nothing at all. Instead, the room feels like spring just walked in and sat down. Is there a problem? He asks, and I realize I've been staring. No, I say. Please, have a seat. He drops into the chair opposite me, but not the way most patients do, careful and small. He sprawls, comfortably, annoyingly. One ankle over his knee, leaning back, one arm hung casually over the side. His gaze flicks over my face, from my neatly parted hair to my pressed, white coat, and then down to the stylus, still clenched in my hand. "You look like someone who irons their socks," he says. I blink once. "That's not a standard evaluation metric, so you admit you don't deny it," he says, dimples flashing. "This is going to be a long appointment." I set the stylus down, careful and precise. "We're here for your quarterly evaluation, Mr. Halden. This shouldn't take long, unless you're going to interrogate me about my laundry habits," he says. "In which case, I want a lawyer present." I don't sigh. I want to. Instead, I tap the first field on the hollow form. "Any changes in sleep patterns?" I ask. "Insomnia, hypersomnolence, vivid dreams." He tips his head back, eyes on the ceiling. I dreamed about a crocodile in a lab coat last week." "Does that count?" "No." "Then no." I log it. "Appetite?" "Depends who's asking," he says. "Mr. Halden." He bites back a grin, then lifts his hands in a little surrender. Fine. Appetite normal. I eat. I don't faint on public transport. I haven't started chewing the furniture. Yet. Energy levels? Pretty good. I walk upstairs without composing a eulogy. "Any episodes of uncontrolled aggression or panic?" He studies me for a beat, eyes narrowing a fraction. The joke fades, just for a heartbeat, and something sharp watches me from behind his easy posture. "None," he says finally. "You'd know if I did, right? That's your whole thing here." I make a neutral sound and press my thumb to the next field. "My whole thing here." It's more accurate than he knows. "Last vaccination date?" I ask, even though it's in the record. He tilts his head, as if trying to remember. 3 months ago, he says, which is exactly what the system reports. "Any side effects?" I ask. "Headaches, nausea, sensory distortions?" "What kind of distortions?" "Unusual tastes, smells, altered perception." "Oh," he says, and his gaze settles on me, too steady. "No. I don't smell anything unusual." No hesitation, not even a blink. "I do. I can feel my pulse in my throat." I keep my voice flat. "Consent to perform a standard pheromone panel." "Do I get a sticker after?" he asks. "No. I think your incentive structure needs work, Dr. Hale." He leans forward, elbows on his knees now, which brings him a few inches closer. The scent sharpens, sweet, warm, threaded with something faintly wild. My body registers every detail like it's starved. 8 years of training and suppression push back against the old instincts rising in me. I focus on the datapad. Focus on the checklist. Focus on the facts. He's an omega. He's on suppression. He's not supposed to smell like this. "Stick out your arm," I say. And I'm impressed by how steady I sound. "Normally a guy buys me dinner first," he says. But he offers his forearm anyway, bare. Skin against the white cuff of my glove as I adjust the microsampler against his wrist. His pulse beats fast beneath my fingers, and his skin is warm. Too warm? I note it mentally. "You're running hot," I say. He laughs softly. "Maybe you're just cold." "Temperature," I clarify. "You're slightly febrile." "Maybe it's because someone's staring at me like I just broke their favorite machine," he says. I glance up. Our eyes meet. For a second, it's too much. The room is too small. The air is too thick. For him, this is a joke. For me, it's a tightrope walk over a fault line. The scanner chimes softly when it's done. I step back and cross to the analysis hatch, sliding the cartridge into the intake. The machine whirs to life behind opaque glass, its screen lighting up with shifting data. Behind me, I hear Seth shift in his chair. Footsteps. Closer. "Question," he says, casual, too casual. "Do you always do these evaluations yourself?" "Yes," I say. "I'm head of behavioral compliance. High-risk categories are assigned to my department." "And I'm high risk?" "You're an omega," I say. "By definition, you're flagged for closer monitoring." There's a pause. "Do I look dangerous to you?" he asks quietly. I look at him over my shoulder. He's leaning against the edge of my desk now, one hip propped, arms crossed over his chest. The jacket pulls a little as he moves, revealing a slip of skin at his collarbone. His eyes are still warm, but there's a watchfulness there now under the humor. His scent curls through the air between us, not sharp with fear, not sour with anxiety. Just alive. No omega in suppression should smell alive like that. You look non-compliant, I say finally. His mouth curves. Ouch. Right in my medical chart. The analyzer pings. Results scroll across the small side display, a neat parade of numbers and lines. Everything within expected ranges. Suppression markers intact. Hormonal levels flat where they should spike. No anomalies. No flags. I stare at the screen. Is that good news? He asks. Medically, yes. Clinically, yes. Logically, yes. It doesn't line up with reality at all. Your results are stable, I say. Say it again, he says, grinning. Slower. I'll record it. Use it as a ringtone. Mr. Halden, I say, a fraction sharper. I need you to answer something honestly. He lifts his eyebrows. Dangerous opening, doctor. When was your last dose of the suppressant? I ask. Exact date. He swings his foot idly, thinking. I told you. 3 months ago. You people love your reminders. Texts, calls, friendly little warnings that my instability quota will go up if I miss an appointment. He shrugs. I show up. You stab me. We repeat this little dance. Romantic. In a dystopian kind of way. You haven't missed a dose. At all. Is that your question, or a statement of faith? He asks. I'm asking, I say. Something in my tone makes his smile thin out. Just a little. No, he says. I haven't missed any lying. The worst part is, I can't tell. With other patients, the vaccine sandpapers the edges of their reactions until they all blur together. With him, everything is too bright, too loud. It's like trying to spot a shadow under a floodlight. My fingers hover over the pad. There's a protocol for this. Observed anomalies, subjective perception discrepancies, recommended escalation, advanced scan, supervisor notification. I don't move. Another question, I say instead. Wow. I didn't realize there'd be a quiz, he says. Do I get partial credit if I answer sarcastically? Why do you smell like that? I ask quietly. He goes still. It's subtle. His shoulders drop half a centimeter, his gaze sharpening, like a cat freezing mid-stretch when it hears a noise. Then, the moment passes, and the easy smile slides back into place. What? He asks lightly. Like your suppressant isn't working, I say. Like you're off program. He laughs. It sounds almost genuine. Maybe you're just... What's the word? Sensitive. I hold his gaze. That's not how the vaccine works. Sure, he says. And yet you're the only one here acting like someone opened a window. Silence stretches between us, thin and trembling. He's right. No one else in this building has flinched. Not the nurse who checked him in. Not the tech who took his blood pressure. No one. Because they don't smell him at all. I do. Doctor, he says softly. And there's a different note in his voice now. Is there anything in your file about that? I don't let my expression change. Don't let the old fear crack the surface. The memory rises anyway. Sirens, shouting. My father's voice ragged with rage as the suppression failed. The sharp reek of blood mixing with his pheromones until... No. I slam that door shut in my head. You're evading my question, I say. And you're evading mine, he counters. Feels fair. I step toward the door and tap my ID against the lock panel. The control lights flick from green to amber. He watches me, head tilted. What are you doing? Securing the room, I say. Standard protocol for an in-depth evaluation. You won't be disturbed. Wow. I didn't realize I'd booked the premium package, he murmurs. Do I at least get a glass of water? There's a dispenser on your left, I say. Sit down. He doesn't. He stays propped against my desk, studying me with open curiosity now. The humor's still there, but it's sharper. A blade wrapped in velvet. You really think I'm off my meds? he says. I think something about your profile doesn't match your presentation, I say. And I need to know why, and if I don't feel like bearing my soul today? He asks. Do you write me up as a naughty omega and send someone to drag me in for a top-up? Non-compliance can result in mandatory isolation, I say. You know that… Ooh, he says softly. Scary. It's infuriating. How unafraid he seems. Or maybe that's the point. Maybe that's his defense. Turn everything into a joke until nobody looks too closely. I'm going to call for a level 3 scan, I say. It will tell us whether your suppression markers are functioning as they should. That's all. Level 3, he repeats. Is that the one where I glow in the dark afterward? Sit, I say again. He sighs dramatically, but this time he obeys, dropping back into the chair with exaggerated compliance. Wouldn't want to make you file more reports, he says. You'd have to use the angry font. There is no angry font, I say. Exactly, he says. Missed opportunity. I open the secure channel on my tablet, fingers moving through the familiar sequence. Requesting scanner. Room sealed. Subject present. Out of habit, I glance at the system status line at the top of the interface. Connection. Stable. Errors. 0. Dr. Hale? He says. What? You're staring at the screen like it personally offended you. Be quiet, I say, and hit send on the request. The status line flickers. Connection. Unstable. Error. 27B. Routing failure. I frown. That's not… Ah, Seth says lightly. You've got an error. Code 27B. You'll want to restart the node, otherwise it'll loop. The request and lock you out of the system for… What, 20 minutes? I look up slowly. How do you know that? He widens his eyes in faux innocence. Maybe I read your manual in the waiting room. The manual doesn't list internal error codes. Maybe I'm psychic. I turn back to the screen. The line flashes again, then steadies. Error, 27B. Manual override required. Damn it. I tap the override sequence. The system nudges back, uncooperative. Whoever programmed this failsafe had paranoia issues. It takes both hands, my full attention, to push past the software lock. Behind me, I hear the chair scrape. Where are you going? I ask without looking up. You said the water dispenser was on my left, he says. I'm being a model patient. Hydrating. Sit down, I repeat. Relax, he says. I'm not going to bite anyone. The override finally accepts my credentials with a grudging chime. I exhale slowly, tension easing fractionally from my shoulders, and redirect the request through a different node. See? Seth says. Told you, 20 minutes if you let it loop. They really should fix that. I turn around. He's not by the dispenser. He's not by the chair. The room is empty. The door panel, which I know for a fact I locked, glows green. For a second, I just stand there, absurdly hoping he somehow turned invisible behind my desk. The scent in the room is already thinning, fading into the sharp sting of disinfectant and frustration. Then I move. I cross the room in 3 long strides and slap my palm against the door sensor. The panel slides open onto a quiet corridor. A nurse walks by, nodding politely. A transport cart hums at the far end, heading toward diagnostics. No mustard yellow t-shirt, no paint-smeared jeans, no dimples, no trace. He's gone. Excuse me, I say to the nurse. Did you see the patient who just left this room? She blinks at me. I haven't seen anyone come out of there, doctor. Is everything all right? Liar, my instincts whisper. But her scent is flat, medicated, bland the way everyone's is, like filtered air and nothing else. If she's lying, I'll never smell it. Yes, I say slowly. Everything is fine. I step back into the office and make the door close. The lock light shifts from green back to amber as if mocking me. In the sudden quiet, I stand in the center of the room and inhale. There it is, faint now but unmistakable. A ghost of warmth clinging to the air, curling under my skin. A real omega scent. Alive, sharp, wholly out of place. For the first time in years, I feel something unfamiliar threading through the usual grid of duty and fear. Not anger. Not panic. Interest. I look at the abandoned chair. At the door he's somehow slipped through. At the incomplete note on his chart still blinking on my display. Seth Halden, I'll find you, I say quietly. To the empty room and the fading scent of spring. However hard you try to run. And for the first time in 8 years at Lyragen, the promise doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like the beginning. If he thinks he's the hunter, he hasn't met me properly. That's the first thought I have when the door to his office slides shut behind me the second time. Well, technically it's the first thought I admit to. The real first one is, wow, his neck is even more tense today. Dr. Grayson Hale has a very expressive neck. I noticed it the moment I walked in for the first evaluation. Most people only see the white coat, the neat hair, the flat, careful voice. The whole Lyragen aesthetic, polished, disinfected, emotionally beige. But tension travels. It settles in the tight line of his jaw, the way his shoulders never fully drop, and yeah, right there, in the cords of his throat, pulled taut like he's swallowing something sharp. I knew he wasn't standard the second his gaze hit me. It's the look people give things that might explode. Curiosity with a backing track of dread. You don't get that kind of reaction from someone who's fully sanded down by the program. So when he stared at me in that first appointment, and the air in his office went thick and weird, I thought, oh, one of us is glitching, and it isn't just me. Of course, I still ran the moment he tried to lock me in. Survival instincts first, flirting with danger second. Mostly, my apartment doesn't look like it belongs to someone enrolled in a government suppression schedule. For one, it has color. Lyragen is all white and chrome, and soft blue accent lighting, pretending to be calm. My place is what would happen if a paint factory and a thrift store had a love child and then gave it anxiety. I live on the top floor of an old converted warehouse 4 stops from the clinic. When I push open the door, I'm hit with the smell of acrylics, turpentine, coffee gone cold, and the faint trace of fake lavender from the cheap diffuser I keep near the entrance. Light spills through the high windows, cut into rectangles by naked metal beams. Half the floor is swallowed by canvases, some finished, some abandoned halfway through. Some just furious strokes of color I pretend are studies when people visit. My mattress is on a low platform in the corner. Sheets a tangled mess. There's a small kitchen area with mismatched mugs and a fridge covered in magnets that don't match either. The only thing that looks sterile is the medical mini-fridge, tucked under my workbench, humming quietly to itself. And then there's the vase. It sits on the table near the center of the room, right between 2 easels. A tall glass cylinder filled with ugly, perfectly symmetrical artificial flowers, plastic petals, plastic stems, plastic everything. The color is this weird, almost white pink, like they couldn't commit either way. I hate them. Every time I walk past, I have the urge to grab the whole thing and throw it out the window. If I'm being honest, I've held it in my hands more than once, fingers closing, around the cool glass, imagining the crash of it hitting the street below. I don't, because the flowers aren't really for me. They're for the detectors. Those pretty little stems are stuffed with chemical modulators, slow-release compounds that mess with airborne traces. They don't block my scent completely. That would be impossible, but they blur the edges, make me smell a little less like a walking violation of public safety guidelines, and a little more like I'm just slightly off. Slightly off is survivable. I toe off my shoes, drop my bag by the door, and head straight for the sink. My head is pounding. It started as a dull pressure at the base of my skull when I woke up, and by the time I closed the door of Gray's office behind me hours ago, it felt like someone had put my brain in a vice. I splash water on my face, gripping the sides of the sink until the edge of the ceramic digs into my palms. The mirror above it is speckled with paint, because I never remember to take a step back when I flick my brush. My reflection looks fine, a little pale, dark curls pushed back with a band, brown eyes underlining the headache with faint shadows. Normal. For a very flexible definition of the word. I close my eyes and focus on my body the way my father taught me. Check in, Seth. Not just your thoughts. Your systems. The heat under my skin pulses, a slow burn in my chest, and along my spine. My muscles ache like I ran 10 miles uphill. When I try to straighten, my fingers tremble, just a little. Still here, I mutter at myself. Still me. For now. The antisuppressant, call it an antidote, call it a curse, sits quietly in my blood most days. My father built it that way. But it still has weight. It's not a clean code running on a machine. It's more like carrying a storm cell under your ribs, patched and stabilized to stay dormant until someone flips the right switch. When it flares, it takes everything with it. Cells don't like being rewritten. Neurons, least of all. Dad explained it to me in careful, too bright words when I was 19, and he told me what he'd done. If we release it, he said, voice raw but steady, it'll cascade. Through you first, then through anyone exposed. It will try to reset things to a pre-suppression state. That includes your own synaptic mapping. You may not recognize yourself, or us, or anything. Like wiping a drive, I said, because it was easier than saying brain. He nodded once. Like wiping a drive that's currently running. I didn't say I thought he was insane. I didn't say I was terrified. I didn't say that I had always suspected something was wrong with the program, that I felt like I was suffocating even. Before the first injection, that the thought of being flattened into one more quiet, neutral citizen made my lungs hurt. He looked at me like I was the best and worst thing he'd ever created. I couldn't let them have this, he said. Not the full version. They'd weaponize it. So I encoded it in the only place they wouldn't think to look. In you, great, I'd said. So I'm a walking restricted file. Not restricted, he said quietly. Protected. I never got the chance to ask him what he really meant. He died in a lab fire 3 months later. Official report. Accident. Unofficially? I started sleeping with my sneakers next to the bed and a packed bag under it. There's a reason I know Lyra Jen's error codes. I've been dancing on the edge of their system for years. My head throbs. I force myself to straighten and walk away from the sink before I can sink to the floor. I don't have time to spiral. I have an appointment tomorrow. Mandatory hormonal levels check. You miss those, and they send people. The kind who don't knock. I flop down onto the mattress instead, staring up at the ceiling. The beams cut the light into squares across my vision. My heart won't settle. He smelled me. Not in the general metaphorical way. Literally. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head. The way Gray's eyes had gone flat and sharp at the same time. The way his hand tightened. Around the stylus, the way his pupils had dilated a fraction when I stepped closer. Most people at Lyra Jen don't react. Their noses are as suppressed as everything else. You could set off a pheromone bomb in the lobby, and half of them would just think the ventilation was acting weird again. But Gray? If I didn't know better, I'd say he looked hungry. Not in a predatory way. Not exactly. More like someone who'd been starving on purpose for a very long time, and suddenly caught the smell of a bakery. I press the heel of my hand to my forehead and exhale. It's fine, I tell the empty room. You're fine. You've gotten out of tighter corners. The plastic flowers stare back at me in silent, ugly judgment. The next day, Lyra Jen looks exactly the same as it always does. It's one of the unsettling things about the place. No matter what happens in those rooms, in people's heads, in their blood, the building itself never reflects it. It just keeps humming, climate-controlled and unbothered. I swipe my ID at the main entrance and feel the faint buzz of the scanner reading my implant. The security gate slides open with a soft chime. The waiting area is full, a few betas scrolling through their phones, a bored, looking alpha tapping their foot, a middle-aged omega calmly knitting. Everyone smells like nothing. If I didn't have my own history with suppression, I might even find it peaceful. Today, my headache is better. The heat under my skin has settled into a low simmer instead of a boil. The anti-suppressant is quiet. I'm good at reading myself now. I know my limits. I know how hard I can push before it pushes back. I check in at the terminal. The screen flashes my name and status. Halden, Seth, Omega, suppressed. Appointment, 10:30. Hormonal panel, Dr. Hale, behavioral compliance. Of course it's him. I'm not surprised exactly. High-risk categories go to behavioral. And apparently the system has flagged me as interesting, which, fair. But still, "Mr. Halden?" The receptionist calls. I look up. She smiles in that practiced, gentle way they must teach in orientation. "Dr. Hale is ready for you," she says. "Room B-14. Lucky me," I murmur, and push off the chair. The hallways always feel a little colder than they need to be. I follow the signs, counting the turns, even though I already know the layout. If you're going to be prey, it helps to memorize all the possible routes. When the door to B-14 slides open, he's already there. He's not behind the desk this time. He's standing near the center of the room, arms folded, back straight. The lights catch on the sharp line of his cheekbones. His hair is as neat as yesterday, but there's something different about him. He looks annoyed. "Mr. Halden," he says, "close the door behind you." "No good morning?" I ask, stepping inside. "You're slipping, Dr. Hale." He taps the wall control. The door slides shut with a soft hiss, the lock light flipping from green to amber. I didn't even get to touch it. On the panel, a small icon glows, "Room sealed." "Huh." "On this occasion," he says, voice very calm, "I decided to skip the pleasantries." "Wow," I say. And here I thought we had something special. His jaw ticks. It's small, but I catch it. "Have a seat," he says. I look at the chair, then at him, then deliberately stroll to the far side of the room instead, hands in my pockets, pretending to study the wall monitor. "You know," I say, "if you're going to lock me in again, you could at least say, 'please.'" His gaze sharpens. "You won't be going anywhere until this evaluation is complete." There it is, the hunter tone. I turn back to him and grin. "Threaten me with a good time. Why don't you—" "Sit, Mr. Halden," he says low. Maybe it's the echo in the room or the way my name comes out of his mouth, but a little tremor runs down my spine. Not fear. Something wired into me from birth, rewritten by the vaccine, reawakened by whatever my father left in my blood. I squash it ruthlessly. "You really don't like it when people don't follow instructions, do you?" I say, but this time I humor him. I drop into the chair, stretching my legs out just enough to look relaxed, not enough to look like I'm ready to run. He picks up a handheld scanner from the tray next to him. Sleek, silver, about the size of a TV remote. He steps closer, and my stupid trader senses immediately register everything. The faint crispness of his cologne, the underlying scent of clean skin, and something darker that the suppressants haven't quite managed to scrub away. Up close, his eyes are a ridiculous shade of gray. Cool, precise, like storm clouds that decided to get a medical degree. "This is a standard hormonal read," he says, non-invasive. "You shouldn't feel anything, not even judged?" I ask. "That depends on your results," he says. He starts at my temples, the scanner emitting a faint ticking sound as it moves. The device's tiny display scrolls with numbers and graphs I can't see from this angle. I watch his face instead. He's focused, but not in the way of someone going through a rote procedure. His attention is sharp, targeted. Whenever the scanner beeps a little louder, his brows draw together. He runs it down the side of my neck. My pulse jumps. His hand doesn't tremble, but his throat moves when he swallows. We're both pretending not to notice that. He moves to my wrist, taking it in his hand to angle the scanner properly. His fingers are cool around my skin. Mine are not. My temperature's a little up again. "Great. Relax your hand," he says. "That's a big ask in this relationship," I say, but I let my fingers uncurl. The device gives one clear chime. He glances at the display, and something in his expression closes down. "What?" I ask. He doesn't answer right away. He steps back, turning the scanner so I can't see the readout, and crosses to the integrated console on the wall. The scanner docks with a soft click. Data streams across the larger screen. Lines, bars, neat labels. I've seen these charts before. The suppression curve is distinct. Peaks of normal hormonal activity leveled into a smooth plateau. It's what they show us in the pamphlets. Balanced, stable, safe. Whatever he's looking at makes his shoulders stiffen. "Is this where you tell me I've been replaced by a better model?" I say lightly. Because I should warn you, my self-esteem is fragile. Your markers are optimal, he says, not turning around. Perfectly within expected ranges. That sounds good, I say. Why do you look like it's not? He doesn't answer. For a few moments, it's just the soft hum of the console and my heartbeat thudding a little too loud in my own ears. Then he says very quietly, "You're not suppressed." I blink. "You just said my markers are on paper," he cuts in, turning to face me. His eyes are cool, but his jaw is tight enough to crack a tooth. "In your blood, every indicator reflects a properly functioning suppression schedule. Dosage, frequency, uptake, perfect. And?" I ask, because he clearly isn't done. "And," he says, taking a step closer, "you smell like you're not on the program at all." The words drop between us like something heavy. I let out a slow whistle. Wow. You really know how to make a guy feel special. "I am not joking, Mr. Halden," he says. "Neither am I say. I don't say this lightly. Your nose is impressive." His expression doesn't change, but the flush that crawls just under his collar is new. "Interesting. You are not supposed to emit that level of pheromonal activity," he says. "Not if the vaccine is functioning. Yet your labs show no deviation from baseline." Which leaves two explanations. He lifts a hand, counts on his fingers. 1. The tests are falsified. 2. Something about you is different. 3. I say. He frowns. "There is no option 3. "There's always an option 3, I say. I lean back, folding my arms behind my head. 3. You're not supposed to smell anything at all, but you do. That seems like the most obvious anomaly in the room right now." He goes very still. There it is again. That not suppressed reaction. The micro-freeze. The tiny intake of breath. The way his gaze sharpens like I've just flicked a light on in a dark hallway he was pretending didn't exist. I smile, slow and sharp. "Did I hit a nerve, doctor?" I ask softly. "Sensitive topic?" "This evaluation is about you," he says. But his voice has lost a fraction of its earlier smoothness. "Of course it is," I say. "You lock the door, you pull out the fancy toys, you tell me I'm impossible." Very flattering, by the way, but you keep skipping the fun part. His eyes narrow a hair. "Which is, how come you're the only one who reacts?" I ask. "The receptionist? Nothing. The nurse? Nothing. The tech who shoved a needle in my arm last month? Absolutely nothing. But you..." I gesture lazily at him. "You look at me like I broke your reality. And not in a bad way, exactly." His hands curl into loose fists at his sides. "This is not about instincts," I offer. "Scent? Whatever the brochure told you you'd never have to deal with again." We stare at each other. The air feels thick again, like in his office yesterday. Maybe it's just my imagination. Maybe it's the way my body remembers what it was like before the first injection, when the world was loud and bright and full of information my nose could pick up in a crowded room. Or maybe it's the fact that, for the first time in years, someone else is feeling that too. "I asked you a question," he says finally, low. "Why aren't you suppressed?" "And I asked you one," I shoot back. "Why are you?" His mouth tightens. "Your evasion does not inspire confidence. Your does what they're told routine doesn't inspire trust," I say. "We all have our issues." He looks like he wants to argue. Instead, he exhales and turns back to the console, fingers flying over the controls. "Given these results," he says, "I am obligated to escalate your case." Escalate, I repeat. Such a fun word. Very not threatening. "It means you will be subject to additional monitoring," he says. "Possibly a reassessment of your dosage. Potential observation in a controlled environment." "You mean a box," I say. "With walls and cameras, if necessary," he says. My stomach twists. I smile brighter, to hide it. "See, that's where you lose me, doctor. Literally," I tip my head. "Because if you think I'm going to let you turn me into a lab rat, we really are just getting to know each other." His gaze snaps back to me. "If you cooperate, there may be no need for containment." "Containment," I echo. "Cute. Almost as cute as suppression." The overhead lights flicker. It's subtle, just a brief dimming and return. But when you're carrying a biochemical time bomb in your veins, you learn to notice every little tremor in the system. A soft chime sounds in the ceiling speaker, followed by the calm, artificial voice of Lyragen's central system. Attention. Ventilation anomaly detected in Sector B. Please remain calm while we resolve the issue. Staff, proceed according to Protocol V7. The air shifts. A faint hiss starts in the vents, then hiccups, then levels out. Somewhere down the hall, I hear a door opening. A rustle of confused voices. Gray's head snaps up. He looks at the status display on the wall. It flashes amber for a moment. Airflow variance. Investigating. I didn't cause this one for once, but I am definitely going to use it. What's Protocol V7? I ask innocently. Stay in the room and wait, he says, already moving toward the console, fingers flying across the interface. Ventilation incidents can spread contaminants. We seal until... The room's lock light flips from amber back to green, just for a second, then starts blinking as the system tries to reassert control. The door emits a confused click, like it's not sure what state it's supposed to be in. Until what? I ask. Until the override is complete, he mutters. Stay seated. It's a very good thing he doesn't look at me when he says it, because I'm already moving. I'm not stupid enough to sprint. That draws attention. I stand up slowly, as if stretching, as if my knees have gone stiff from sitting too long. Then, timed with the next flicker of the lights and the soft rise in voices out in the corridor, I glide toward the door. Sit, Mr. Halden, Gray says over his shoulder. Relax, I say. I'm just curious. His focus is on the override sequence. I recognize the interface from the last time. Layers of security designed by someone who never met a determined rat in a maze. The ventilation error is wreaking havoc with his network priorities. For a few seconds, everything's lagging. I reach the door. The lock light is still blinking. Caught between states, I lay my palm flat against the panel and smile sweetly at it. Come on, I whisper. You and I both want me out of here. I tap my wristband against the sensor. It's not a full clearance, but today the system is distracted enough that it just sighs and lets me pass. The door slides open. Cooler air rushes in from the corridor, carrying the faint sense of people. Anxiety, confusion, boredom, smeared thin under chemical blankness. Snippets of conversation float down the hall. No one's looking this way. Behind me, Gray curses under his breath as the console throws another error. Mr. Halden, do not, he starts. I step through the doorway. Better luck next time, Doctor, I call over my shoulder. Pro tip, hunters shouldn't get distracted by their own tools. Stop, he snaps. For a split second, some old part of me wants to listen. The part that grew up in a world where alpha meant you stop or you pay for it. But that world burned with my father's lab, and I'm not a kid anymore. I walk. By the time the system stops arguing with itself and properly locks B14, I'm just another patient in the mild chaos of the ventilation glitch. No one smells me. No one gives me a second look. Except him. I can feel his gaze on my back even after the door slides shut again. That night, I climb the stairs to the roof of my building with a mug of tea in one hand and a worn hoodie slung over my shoulder. The city spreads out below, a grid of lights and motion and quiet little tragedies. Distant sirens wail. Hovercars hum between glass towers. Somewhere, someone laughs too loud. Up here, the air is cleaner, colder. The anti-suppressant hums low in my blood, quiet for now. My head still aches, but less. I breathe in slowly, letting the night fill my lungs. I settle on the edge of the rooftop, legs dangling over the side, mug warming my fingers. The studio windows, below glow, with soft yellow light, outlining the chaos I call home. Across the street, someone has strung fairy lights on a balcony railing. They blink lazy patterns into the dark. I tilt my head back and look at the slice of sky visible between the buildings. I'm playing a dangerous game, I say to no one in particular. A breeze slides over the rooftop, ruffling my hair. For a second, I imagine it smells faintly of antiseptic, and something cool and sharp underneath. Like storm clouds in a lab coat. I snort. But I like the way he looks at me, I admit. Softer. There's a thrill in it, in being seen. Not as a perfect chart, not as a compliant number in a report, not as a problem to be fixed by more injections, as something impossible, as someone impossible. Maybe he thinks he's the hunter. Maybe the clinic thinks it's the cage. They haven't met me properly. Yet. I wasn't meant to care. But I do. And that's the problem. Objectively, Seth Halden is just another patient. A number in a system that runs on numbers, dosages, risk scores, compliance percentages, incident reports. In the official flowcharts pinned up in the admin wing, he's a node with 3 possible outcomes: stable, requires adjustment, or escalate. Subjectively, he has become the wrinkle in the clean sheet of my work, the itch under a bandage, the one variable that refuses to be ironed flat. I should have written up the last 2 encounters, flagged them, handed him off to someone else, and gone back to being the perfect cog in Lyra Jen's machine. Instead, I am on my 4th pot of coffee this week, and my 5th read-through of his file. The hollow display sprawls in front of me, layer after layer of data expanding at the flick of my fingers. Every vaccination date, every hormone panel, every baseline scan, it all lines up into a neat, reassuring narrative. Halden, Seth, Omega, suppressed, stable. Except that when he walks into my office, nothing about him is suppressed, and stability is the last word that comes to mind. I scroll back to the earliest entries. His induction at 19, pre-program assessment, strong omega markers, above average reactivity, recommended for priority suppression, initial injections administered, follow-up notes, subject compliant, no unusual side effects, no mention of headaches, no mention of tremors, no mention of anything that looks remotely like what I would expect from someone carrying whatever he's carrying. What bothers me isn't just that the data doesn't fit, it's that the data looks too perfect. No flagged anomalies, no rescheduled appointments, no missed doses, no human messiness at all. People forget things. People move. People get sick. A file this clean after 6 years is either a statistical miracle or a curated fiction. Curated by whom? I rub a hand over my face, then force it down. The reflected image in the idle surface of the console is not flattering. Shadows under my eyes, tension etched into the corners of my mouth. My colleagues would probably tell me to take a day off. They think I'm rigid, controlled, distant. They're not wrong. I spent my entire childhood watching what happens when an alpha doesn't control himself. The program gave me a way to keep that part of me buried and leashed. I took it gladly. I did not sign up to have my reality quietly rewritten behind my back. I bring up access logs, entry badges, camera records, cross-reference his recorded appointments with the times his implant pinged the building. The first 2 overlap neatly. The third one, yesterday's, doesn't. According to the system, he never checked out of Sector B. According to my eyes, I watched him walk out during the ventilation glitch. According to Lyra Jen, both of those things are somehow true. Lies or incompetence, I mutter. Pick one. I'm not talking to anyone. There's no one else in my office. Still, my voice sounds too loud in the sterile quiet. I'm about to dig deeper into the network when a notification pings in the corner of the display. Internal archive request. Approved. Subject. Suppression program. Founders. Attachments. Press packet. Year 1. Right. That. 2 years ago, during one of the annual audits, I requested deeper access to historical program data. Someone in administration decided today is the day that approval finally filters down to me. Bureaucratic timing has always had a vicious sense of humor. I almost dismiss it. Then the name Halden catches my eye in the tag list. I open the file. The press packet is formatted like a celebration. Sleek, polished, full of smiling faces and earnest headlines. New era of safety, one reads. Leading scientists present suppression program. There's a video link I ignore, and a series of still images. Politicians, corporate sponsors, researchers in lab coats, shaking hands, standing in front of a banner with the Lyra Jen logo. I swipe through them, half on autopilot, skimming the captions. Dr. Rowan Halden, chief architect of the suppression formula. I stop. The photo fills the screen. A tall man in a lab coat stands in the center, flanked by two other researchers. He's holding a tablet in one hand, the other tucked into his coat pocket. His hair is darker than mine but streaked with early gray, his jaw stubbled, eyes tired but bright behind his glasses. He's smiling the way people smile when they haven't slept in 3 days, but believe their exhaustion means something. Next to him, slightly off to the side, is a boy. Teenage, maybe 17. Messy brown hair, warm brown eyes, dimples, wearing a hoodie that looks 2 sizes too big, with paint stains on the sleeve. He's not looking at the camera, he's looking at the man in the lab coat. Mouth curved in a crooked half-smile like he's just told him a joke. The caption is simple. Dr. Rowan Halden and son. My stomach drops. The boy isn't labeled. He doesn't have to be. Even without the dimples, I'd recognize that face. Seth. I stare at the image until my eyes blur, until I'm forced to blink and look away from the screen. Rowan Halden, creator of the suppression protocol, dead in a lab accident 5 years ago, if the internal summary is to be believed. The packet's text mentions it briefly, a quiet, tasteful line about tragic loss to the scientific community. I flick open his personnel file. It's stripped down. Clinical, dates of employment, areas of focus, awards. The death report is flagged as closed. No further investigation, no details, no context, no reasons. Of course, my fingers tighten until my knuckles ache. So, Seth isn't just an anomaly. He's a legacy of the man who built the very system I've devoted my life to enforcing. I scroll back up to the photo and stare at it again. The boy looks freer there, less guarded, less sharp. The shoulders of someone who hasn't yet learned to hide. The way he watches his father is so open it feels like an intrusion, studying it. I close the file. The room feels smaller all of a sudden. The clinic walls, usually a comfort, a barrier between me and the world's chaos, press in for the first time. If Seth is Rowan Halden's son, and his file is a fabrication, then the suppression formula, the one I've trusted, the one the world has trusted, is built on a foundation of lies I never saw. I wasn't meant to care, but I do. And that's the problem, because caring leads to questions. Questions lead to cracks, and once you see a crack in a system like this, you can't unsee it. I don't tell anyone what I found. Instead, I request another appointment. It's easy enough to justify. His hormonal panel was inconclusive. His scent was inconsistent with suppression. I can pick the right flags, nudge the right forms, and the scheduling AI does the rest. 2 days later, his name appears on my roster. Halden, Seth. 14. Hepatic ultrasound follow-up. Dr. Hale. Liver scan sounds mundane, routine, boring. It's the kind of appointment that doesn't raise eyebrows, either in patients or in the staff. I, on the other hand, am very much not bored. Room C-9 is different from my usual consultation space. It's an imaging suite normally used for deeper scans, clean lines, no windows, integrated equipment. It has the added benefit of being able to go completely offline from the central network without anyone thinking twice about it. I arrive an hour early. The tech on duty, Kira, is bent over the console when I walk in. She looks up with a quick smile. Dr. Hale, she says. Didn't know you had a case in here today. Short notice follow-up, I say. I'll handle this one personally. She blinks. You need me to stay? No, I say. I've already pulled the protocol. It'll be straightforward. You can go to lunch. She hesitates. We're not really supposed to leave a suite unattended while active. Liability and... I'll log the responsibility under my ID, I say, meeting her gaze steadily. If admin has questions, they can ask me. After a moment, she shrugs. Okay. I won't argue with free lunch. Just don't break any of my machines. I wouldn't dream of it, I say. She grabs her tablet, nods, and slips out. The door seals behind her with a soft hiss. As soon as she's gone, I move. First, I lock the room locally, disengaging the standard open-close function and shifting it to manual override only. Then I access the internal network node and route all external signals through a buffered loop. To anyone watching from the outside, C9 will look idle. Occupied, yes, my ID is logged in, but inactive. No imaging process running, no flags. Inside, the equipment hums at low power, waiting for instruction. Finally, I activate the secondary dampers built into the walls for sensitive scans. Sound, signal, scent. They're usually used when scanning patients with extreme sensory sensitivities, to keep external stimuli from interfering. Today, they're for Seth. And if I'm being honest, for me, the last thing I need is someone in the hallway catching a whiff of something that should not exist in a suppression facility. At 13:59, the door chime sounds. Enter, I say. The panel slides open, and there he is. He's dressed differently today. Dark green t-shirt under a black overshirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, black jeans and boots. His hair is still a little messy, curls falling over his forehead in a way that looks accidental, and probably isn't. A streak of blue paint smudges the side of one hand, dried and forgotten. The scent hits me a second later. It's softer than before, like he's been trying to tamp it down. Still there, though. Still wrong. Still alive. He glances at the doorframe, at the subtle hum of the dampers in the walls, then at me. You redecorated, he says. I like what you've done with the paranoia. Mr. Halden, I say. Thank you for coming on short notice. Hard to say no when the reminder mentions hepatic irregularities, he says, making air quotes. Very ominous. 10 out of 10 anxiety points. If you'd rather reschedule. No. He steps fully inside. The door slides shut behind him, the lock light shifting to red. I'm here. You have my liver for the next, half hour? He says it like a joke, but I see the tiny flecks of his fingers at his sides, the faint tightness around his eyes. He's not as relaxed as he pretends. Neither am I. This will be short, I say. Lie down on the table. His eyebrows rise. Straight to ordering me to lie down? We're skipping a few steps, Dr. Hale. Table, I repeat. He huffs out a breath, but he hops up and stretches out on the narrow padded surface, lacing his hands behind his head. The overhead light washes his features in pale white, shadows pooling under his cheekbones. I pull the imaging unit into position over his abdomen, more for show than necessity. The actual scan is secondary today. The interrogation is not. Is this the part where you push a button and my whole life flashes before my eyes? He asks. Because I feel like we should at least dim the lights. I rest my palms on the edge of the table, one on each side of his ribs, and lean over him just enough that he has to tip his head back to keep my gaze. Enough games, I say quietly. Who are you? His smile is immediate. Too immediate. Wow, he says, straight to the existential stuff. Most doctors start with, do you drink and how often? Seth, I say. His name feels strange in my mouth. I don't use first names with patients. It's a boundary I've maintained religiously. It slips now without my permission. Something flickers across his face at the sound of it. Something quick and undefended. Then the smile snaps back into place, but a fraction tighter. You have my file, he says. You know who I am. No, I say. I know who you're pretending to be. An omega on a standard suppression schedule, no incidents, no deviations. That's what your record says. Then what's the problem? He asks softly. The problem, I say, leaning a little closer, is that your record is a lie. His eyes search mine, like he's trying to decide how serious I am. Okay, he says slowly. Let's say I believe you're not just having a dramatic mid-career crisis. Why would my record be a lie? Because you are not suppressed, I say. Because your scent alone is a violation of every suppression marker we have. Because your lab results do not reflect reality. Because your entrance and exit logs don't match physical observation. Because, I hesitate. Because what? He presses. I exhale through my nose, annoyed with myself. Because I have seen your father's face, I say. In the founding documents. Creator of the program. Rowan Halden, standing next to a boy who looks exactly like you. Silence. His fingers, laced behind his head, curl in on themselves. His gaze goes distant for a heartbeat. When it returns, it's sharper, not angry, not yet. Digging through old archives now? He says, "That's very thorough of you. It's my job to understand the risks my patients pose." I say, "You are not a standard case. And what risk do you think I pose, exactly?" He asks. "To you? To the program?" "To both," I say before I can stop myself. The air between us feels thinner now, charged. The hum of the dampers in the walls seems louder. We're close enough that I can feel the rise and fall of his chest under my hands on the table. Close enough that I can see the faint spray of freckles across the bridge of his nose. He laughs. It's not his usual light, easy laugh. It's brittle around the edges, a little too sharp. "Let me get this straight," he says. "You drag me into an isolation room, lock the doors, cut the signal, and now you want me to open up about my relationship with Daddy Dearest and my threat level?" "Yes," I say. "You really skipped all the trust-building workshops, huh?" He mutters. "I stay where I am. If I give him space, he'll bolt. He's like a feral thing that way, too much room, and he remembers the exits." "Why are your labs clean?" I ask. "Who's altering your records?" He wet his lips, eyes tracking mine. The movement draws my gaze for a fraction of a second. His scent curls around me, sweet and hot. "I'm not the one with access to your internal systems," he says. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting unless you give me something back," he says, surprising me. "Quid pro quo, doctor." "This is not a negotiation," I say. "It is, if you want the truth," he says quietly. "Because right now, you're asking me to peel myself open while you stand behind a wall and throw questions over it." The words land harder than they should, possibly because they're not entirely wrong. I shift my weight, bracing my arms more firmly on the table. "What do you want?" I ask. His eyes darken. "Honesty. About what?" I rasp. "About you," he says. "About why you can smell me when no one else can. About why your pupils blow wide every time I walk into the room. About why you keep chasing me instead of handing me off to security and washing your neat, careful hands of me." Heat prickles under my collar. I know my control is good. I've spent years honing it. But even I can feel the slip now. The way my breathing has gone shallow. The way my hands want to curl where they're planted. "I'm head of behavioral compliance," I say stiffly. "It's my responsibility to handle anomalies." He snorts. "You could have written one report and been done." "You didn't." I don't reply. He watches me for a long few seconds. "You're not fully suppressed either, are you?" he says finally, voice softer. "The vaccine didn't take." The words scrape over old scars. I could lie. I should. I don't. "Not completely," I say. His eyes flare. Triumph and something like sympathy flicker through them. "There it is," he whispers. "The first honest thing you've said to me." Something in my chest twists. We are too close. The dampers have cut us off from the rest of the building. No sounds filter in from the corridors. It's just his breathing, my heartbeat, the faint whirring of machines. The sterile room suddenly feels intimate. He shifts under my hands, just a little, and the line of his body brings us even closer. His breath ghosts over my throat. For a moment, my vision edges with static. This is not professional. This is not allowed. This is the exact situation the program was designed to prevent: unsuppressed instincts in a confined space. "Seth," I say, and this time his name comes out rougher than I intend. He swallows. I watch the movement of his throat. "Gray," he says quietly, "if we're going to have this conversation, we can't both pretend we're not standing on the edge of something sharp." He has no idea how sharp. I could tell him about my father, about the broken furniture and broken bones, about the night sirens painted our walls red, and the program's clean, white-coated saviors. Pried his fingers off my shoulders, and promised that I would never have to be like him. I don't. Instead, I say the worst possible thing. "You're a potential threat," I say. It's clinical, accurate, the kind of phrase that shows up in risk assessments and leads to checkboxes and containment orders. His face shudders instantly. The little cracks of vulnerability, the flicker of connection, gone. His whole body goes still under my hands, not in fear, but in that particular way people get when they've just been proven right about something ugly. Right, he says, voice flat. There it is. Seth. No, it's fine. His smile comes back, but it's all edges now. No warmth. I was starting to think you might be different. I am trying to protect your program. He cuts in, your precious stability, or yourself. I'm trying to protect people, I say. It comes out desperate, which I hate. From me, he says. Got it. That's not exactly like everyone else, he says quietly. Thanks for the clarification, doctor. My fingers twitch against the edge of the table. I want to grab his wrist, keep him there, make him listen. That, more than anything, proves his point. I didn't say you were a monster, I manage. You didn't have to, he says. For a second, we just stare at each other. Then he moves. I expect another verbal jab, maybe a bitter joke. I do not expect him to snap his leg up, kick the underside of the imaging unit just so, and send it bumping into the manual emergency release lever hidden under the console lip. The lever jolts. The room's lock light flickers from red to amber. I curse and reach for him, but he's already sliding off the table in one smooth, practiced motion. Seth. He ducks under my arm fast. I feel the brush of his shoulder against my ribs, the ghost of his scent swirling as he moves. Here's the thing about traps, he says, backing toward the door. You shouldn't set one for someone who's been living in them their whole life. The emergency override tones chirp once as the system tries to reassert control. For a heartbeat, the door believes there might be a fire, a gas leak, a reason to prioritize exit over containment. It slides open. He's into the hallway before I can grab him. Stop, I bark. He looks back just once, over his shoulder. The hallway lights carve shadows along his profile, soften the hard line of his mouth. For what it's worth, he says, I did want to trust you. Then, he's gone. Just like that. Melted into the trickle of staff responding to a brief flicker in the suite status. By the time I slam my palm against the sensor and force the door shut again, he's already out of range. The room feels cavernous and empty without him. I stand there, breathing hard, fists clenched, staring at the door like I can will him back through it. I can't. Instead, I turn back to the console and pull up his file one more time. The neat rows of data look even more obscene now. Fake logs, impossible lab values, an Omega who smells like freedom in a building designed to erase it. A man whose father built the cage and apparently hid the key in his own son. He's not a forger, not just a glitch, not a personal inconvenience. He's proof. Of what, exactly, I'm not sure yet. That the program isn't what we were told? That there's a way around it? That I'm not the only one walking around with more instincts than I should have? All of the above. I scrub a hand over my face and head for the nearest window. The imaging suite doesn't have one, but the corridor outside opens into a narrow lounge, a concession to staff morale. There's a couch no one uses, and a floor-to-ceiling pane of reinforced glass that looks out over the city. I stand in front of it, hands shoved into my coat pockets, and stare down at the street far below. The world moves as if nothing has shifted. Cars glide past. People in neutral clothes walk the sidewalks. Drones zip between buildings, delivering packages and medical supplies. And sometimes, suppression doses straight to people's doors. My reflection hangs in the glass, coat, tie, careful hair, the perfect face of a compliant specialist. I have to find him, I say quietly. It's not a professional resolution this time. It doesn't feel like ticking a box or closing a case. It feels like stepping off the edge of something. Not as a specialist, I add, hearing the admission as I say it. As what? The glass doesn't answer. The city doesn't care. I don't know yet. But I know this. Whatever is under Seth Halden's skin is going to crack this program wide open. And I'm already too far in to pretend I don't want to see what happens when it does. He looked at me like I was worth saving. No one ever has. By the time I make it to Lyragen, my whole body is shaking. The city is quieter at night. The usual hum drops a few notches. The endless flow of people thins to a trickle, and the suppression. Drones glide through the streets like bored fireflies, scanning implants and checking compliance. I keep my hood up, hands in my pockets, head down. The heat under my skin is getting worse. It started this afternoon as a slow burn, like I'd stood too close to a space heater. By dusk, it had climbed my spine and wrapped around the base of my skull. By the time I'm standing across the street from Lyragen's glass facade, it feels like someone has poured boiling water into my veins. The antisuppressant is waking up. It isn't supposed to, not on its own. My father designed it to be dormant unless triggered. External stimulus, controlled activation, safe parameters. That was the whole point. But the world isn't safe, and nothing about my life has been according to plan for a long time. A gust of wind blows across the plaza, cold enough to make my eyes sting. It doesn't help. My breath still fogs the air in front of me, but my skin burns. You should be in bed, I mutter to myself, or a hospital, or on a beach in another country. Literally anywhere but here. My feet carry me forward anyway. The front doors are locked, of course. After-hours access is limited to staff, emergency cases, and very important people with very expensive problems. I'm none of those. What I do have is my implant. A handful of unauthorized access codes learned, over years of walking the line between compliant and ghost, and a building that doesn't expect anyone stupid enough to break in when the entire point of said building is to keep people under control. The external scanner flickers as I approach, washing me in a faint blue light. My implant pings back the expected signature. Halden, Seth, Omega, suppressed, stable. That's funny. I tap my wristband against the reader, forcing my fingers not to tremble. The device hesitates, probably because I'm not on the list of people who should be here at 1:17 a.m. Then someone's old override, hand-coded and buried years ago in a system that never expects anyone to go spelunking through its guts, hits, and the door sighs open with a soft hiss. Still got it, I mutter. The lobby is darker than usual. The main lights are off, only the emergency strips along the floor, and the soft glow of wall panels guide the way. The receptionist desk is empty. The air smells like sanitizer and nothing, and too much memory. I wrap my arms around myself and start walking. The emergency lights paint the corridors in muted oranges and reds. Shadows stretch long across the polished floor. Somewhere deep in the building, a machine hums, steady and uncaring. The usual chorus of voices, footsteps, and beeping monitors is gone. It feels like I broke into the belly of a sleeping animal. Each step echoes a little too loudly. My head throbs with the rhythm of it. Sweat sticks my shirt to my back, despite the chill in the air. I should turn around. I should call literally anyone else. I keep walking. By the time I reach the behavioral wing, I'm not sure how I'm still upright. The antisuppressant's heat has spread behind my eyes, and every breath feels thick, like I'm inhaling syrup. The world tilts if I move too fast. I brace my palm against the wall and swear under my breath. Come on, I whisper to myself. You made it this far. Don't faceplant in the hallway now. The door to Gray's office is closed. The glass panel next to it glows dimly with his name and ID. I lift my hand to hit the chime, hesitate, then curl my fingers into a fist and knock instead. For a second, nothing happens. Then the door slides open. He's there. Of course he is. He's shed his lab coat, like the rest of the world has gone home, but he forgot to. His sleeves are rolled up, tie loosened, hair a little mussed like he's run his hands through it too many times. The light from his desk screen paints his face in soft blue lines. The emergency panel outside throws a faint red halo around his shoulders. His eyes widen when he sees me. Seth, he says. My name, low and rough. Hey, I manage, trying for a grin and probably landing somewhere closer to a grimace. Got a minute? His gaze sweeps over me in one long assessing line. Sweat, tremors, the way I'm leaning into the doorframe without meaning to. His jaw tightens. What are you doing here? He asks. It's after midnight. Can't sleep. I say lightly. Thought I'd drop by my favorite authoritarian institution for a chat. Seth, he repeats, sharper. The heat spikes under my skin. My vision blurs for a second. I swallow. Throat dry. I need your help, I say. The words taste like swallowing glass. I don't ask for help. Not from systems. Not from people who wear the system's coat like a second skin. He steps aside instantly. Get in, he says. I stumble past him, and the scent of him. Clean, sharp, threaded with that barely suppressed edge I've only ever sensed on him. Cuts through the fog in my head just enough to keep me moving. The door slides shut behind me with a soft, final hiss. His office looks like it always does. Neat desk. Organized shelves. A digital plant in the corner that looks almost real if you squint. I grab the back of a chair as my knees threaten to give out. He's closer a second later, one hand hovering near my elbow without quite touching. You're burning up, he says. What happened? I huff out something that's almost a laugh. Funny story. Seth. It's waking up, I say. The thing my father put in me. The anti-suppressant. Antidote. Whatever you want to call it. His expression shudders, sharpens, dark eyes going flat and focused the way they do when he's about to walk into a fire. Explain, he says. He's not barking orders. It's not a demand. It's a plea wrapped in steel. I obey anyway. I'm a container, I say. Because starting anywhere else feels pointless now. You were right, okay? The labs are a lie. The logs are patched. The only thing that's real is the part where my father turned me into a walking failsafe. His nostrils flare. Failsafe for what? For the program, I say. For you. For everyone. I pull in a breath that tastes like copper and memories. He didn't trust what they'd do with the suppression formula, I continue. He never did, not completely. He told them it was safe, manageable, controllable. He told the world it would make everyone better. And he lied? Gray asks. No, I say. He just knew people would find new ways to be awful with it. He thought if he kept one piece back, one piece that could undo it, then maybe there'd be a way out if it all went wrong. A way out, Gray repeats. I nod. My hands shake harder. I jam them into the pockets of my hoodie to hide it. He encoded the anti-suppressant in me, I say. Mapped it to my genetics. Built the cascade around my biochemistry. If it's released, it'll propagate through exposure and contact. Slowly, at first, then faster. The program can't filter it out because it was never in their database to begin with. Gray's eyes are locked on my face, absorbing every word. And the cost? He says quietly. I force a smile. It feels brittle. You read the research, I say. You know what happens when you rewrite cells that are already live. His throat moves as he swallows. Neural degradation, cellular instability, memory loss, personality fragmentation. I shrug, like we're talking about a minor software bug. We didn't have enough data to be sure, but the models weren't optimistic. Best case scenario, I forget who I am. Worst case, I forget how to breathe. Your father did this to you, he says. He asked, I say. I said yes. He flinches like I've hit him. He looked at me, I add softly, like I was worth that much. No one ever had before. The heat under my skin surges. My knees buckle. His hand finally lands on my arm, steadying strong fingers wrapping around my elbow. What changed? He asks. Why now? I don't know, I say. Stress? Time? Exposure levels? Maybe the system finally pushed my body hard enough that it thinks it's time to push back. A tremor racks through me, worse than before. I grit my teeth. I'm running a fever. Head feels like it's trying to crawl out of my skull. The anti-suppressant is moving on its own. If it keeps going like this and I lose control in here, I drag in a breath. Congratulations, Dr. Hale. You'll be the epicenter of the great unsuppressing. His fingers tighten on my arm. You came here, he says slowly. Instead of running, I ran to you, I correct, surprising even myself by how honest that is. There's a difference. He looks at me then. Not like a case file, not like a malfunctioning asset, Not even like a threat. Like a person. Like someone whose life matters to him. It's almost enough to make me stumble all over again. I don't want to disappear, I say. And the words are smaller than I'd like, fragile and raw. I don't want to become a weapon and a ghost. I don't want to wake up in a world that's suddenly louder and brighter and not remember why we lit the match. Seth, he says. My name, again. Softer this time. We can. His console chimes sharply, slicing the moment in half. We both freeze. The wall display lights up with an incoming priority call. Admin security, the header reads. He hesitates. Answer, I say. If you don't, they'll come down here in person. His jaw clenches. He taps the connection. Dr. Hale, a crisp voice says. Administrator Cho. I've heard her in the hall before, seen her float through the building like a knife in a silk sheath. We've detected irregular after-hours access on the main entrance scanners. Gray's gaze flicks to me. I grin humorlessly and wiggle my fingers. That access, Cho continues, matches the implant signature of patient Halden. He is not authorized to be on premises outside scheduled appointments. If you encounter him, you are to detain and isolate immediately until security arrives. Understood? Gray's hand hovers over the console. His shoulders are rigid. Duty says he should say yes. Every instinct etched into his bones by this place says he should hit the compliance notes and let the machine swallow me whole. He doesn't respond. Dr. Hale? Cho's voice sharpens. Are you receiving this instruction? He looks at me. I don't beg. I don't plead. I just look back. He reaches out and disconnects the call. Just like that. One tap, and the administrator's voice cuts off mid-word. The console flashes a warning. Missed priority communication. Report required. He ignores it. Okay, I say faintly. That was reckless. You came to me, he says. You asked for my help. Yes, I say. I didn't expect you to tank your career in under 10 seconds, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. He exhales, a sharp, humorless huff. Can you walk? He asks. For now, I say. Give it 10 minutes, maybe 20, and I'll be more of a messy puddle situation. Then we don't have 10 minutes, he says. He steps closer, sliding my arm over his shoulders, his hand settling at my waist. The touch shocks through me, grounding and dangerous all at once. He's solid and cool, where I'm shaking and burning. We're leaving, he says. Out the front door? I ask. Bold choice. Not out, he says. Down. Lyragen looks different from the back. The main corridors are all glass and polish and soft voices. The service corridors are bare bones, exposed pipes, unadorned walls, narrow, stairwells that smell faintly of cleaning solvents and cheap coffee. We move through them as quickly as my body allows. Doors slide shut behind us. Cameras swivel away a fraction of a second too late, fooled by Gray's manual overrides. His fingers dance over wall panels and access pads with the precision of someone who has spent his entire life learning how to keep things locked in. Tonight, he's using that skill to get us out. Footsteps echo in distant corridors as security fans out, heading toward the main wings. The building's automated voice recites calm instructions over the intercom. All staff, remain at your current stations. A security sweep is in progress. Sweat drips down my spine. My legs feel like they're made of wet sand. The heat in my veins pulses in time with my heartbeat. Hey Gray, I pant as we duck into another stairwell. Important question. Now? He says, breath steady despite the pace. Yeah, now, I say. Do you know how to break rules? Or is this a one-time special? His mouth twitches. Only for idiots who play with fire. So, I say, leaning harder into his side as the stairs tilt treacherously. For me, I didn't deny it, he says. We both almost laugh. It comes out a little ragged. A motion sensor blinks red at the bottom of the stairs. Gray pauses, adjusts the small handheld device he grabbed from his office. A signal. Jammer from the look of it, and nods when the light flickers and goes dead. Left, he says, then straight, then through the maintenance hatch at the end. You say that like it's normal for you to know where the maintenance hatch is, I mutter. I read the building schematics when I started working here, he says. Of course you did, I say. You're terrifying. Keep moving, he says, but there's a thread of warmth in it. We slip past another intersection, just as two security officers jog by. They're sent flat and featureless under the program. One of them glances our way, frowning faintly. Gray's hand tightens on my waist, steering me deeper into the shadow of an alcove until they pass. My heart hammers. The antisuppressant surges in response to the adrenaline, sending a spike of heat through my chest. Gray, I whisper. This thing in me, if it spikes too hard. We'll be there soon, he says. There turns out to be a nondescript door at the very end of a barely used hallway in sub-level 3. The plaque is old, the lettering faded. Archive. Restricted access. He taps his ID. The pad glows red. Of course, I say weakly. Now what? You going to glare it into submission? There's a secondary input, he says. He digs his fingers under the edge of the panel, pops the casing off with more force, then finesse, and reveals a tangle of wires and an old manual override port. He pulls a slim cable from his pocket. Who just carries that? And jacks it in. The door control light sputters, then shifts from red to amber. You really did read everything, I murmur. The original plans included a secure testing facility below the archives, he says. They sealed it off years ago. Why? I ask. He looks at me. Because even the program thought it was too much. The lock light turns green. The door slides open. The bunker, because that's what it is, let's not pretend otherwise, is colder than the rest of the building. The air smells stale, like filters that haven't been fully replaced in years. The lights flicker reluctantly to life as we step inside, revealing a wide, low room lined with dormant machines. Old consoles, sealed cabinets, a central platform ringed with equipment I recognize from my father's sketches. This is where they tested the first suppression cascades. Cool. My knees finally give up. Gray catches me before I hit the floor, easing me onto a padded bench near the platform. My head feels like it's floating 2 inches above my body. My skin is too tight. My bones hum. It hurts, I say quietly, because there's no point playing it down now. He kneels in front of me, one hand braced on my knee, the other cupping the back of my neck. I know, he says. His thumb strokes once along the tendon at the base of my skull, grounding me. Stay with me. You got somewhere else I could be? I mumble. His mouth tightens. We have options, he says. Do we? I ask. Because it feels like we've got do nothing and watch me burn out, or flip the switch and hope the world doesn't end before I do. He takes a slow breath. What if we don't flip it all the way? He says. I blink at him through the haze. That's not how it works. It's all or nothing. Cascade. That's the point. Your father mapped it to your genetics, he says. Built it around your biochemistry. That means there are thresholds, levels of expression. It doesn't have to be full amplitude. Gray, I say. This isn't a volume knob. It's a grenade. Grenades can be contained, he says. Redirected. If we route the initial release through a stabilizing field, we can slow the cascade. Reduce the impact on your own neural patterns. You're guessing, I whisper. Yes, he says. But it's an informed guess. You screw it up, I say, and I'm gone. Yes, he says again, and his voice cracks on it. Just a little. He looks up at me then, really looks, like he did in his office, but more stripped down now. All the layers of protocol burned away by the fact that we are sitting in the bones of his employer's worst idea, and I am starting to shake apart. You matter, he says simply, not just because of what's in your blood, not just because of what you can do to the program. You matter. To me. The words land somewhere deep, somewhere old and half-starved. He looked at me like I was worth saving. No one ever has. I swallow hard. You know what the ethical textbooks would say about that, Dr. Hale? I manage. I don't care, he says. You are terrible at your job, I say. Only tonight, he says. Please, trust me. Trust isn't a switch either. But something in me leans toward him anyway, like a plant toward sun. If we do this, I say, and the cascade propagates, people will wake up. They'll smell again. Feel more than they're used to. It'll be messy. Yes, he says. They'll come for you, I add, when they figure out this started in your building. Under your clearance. He huffs out a breath that's almost a laugh. Maybe I'm tired of polishing my cage. I stare at him. That, I say, is the most selfish thing you've ever said. And the most honest, he says quietly. My chest hurts. Not just from the fever. Okay, I say. Partial activation. You take my blood, plug it into whatever fossil you've got here, tweak your knobs, and try not to kill me. Accurate summary, he says dryly. I hate this plan, I add. I do too, he says. We're agreed. I let out something between a laugh and a groan. Fine. Do it before I change my mind. He moves quickly then, flicking on systems, pulling cables from dust-covered ports, bringing ancient machines back to life. The bunker fills with a low, rising hum. Lights blink to attention on consoles that haven't seen use in a decade. He hooks me up to N4, drawing blood into a specialized reservoir that slots into the central rig. The sight of it, my blood, dark and thick in that tube, makes my stomach flip. Too late to back out? I ask. Yes, he says. But if it makes you feel better, I'm terrified too. Oddly, I say. It does. He smiles briefly, then leans over the main console, fingers flying over the manual controls. The interface is archaic by current standards, but he moves like he's practiced this scenario 100 times in his head. Routing initial emission through microfield dampeners, he mutters. Limiting amplitude to 20%. Redirecting secondary cascade along non-neural pathways where possible. Trying to convince the molecule to play nice. Did you just say, please, to a chemical structure? I ask faintly. Yes, he says. I'm very polite to things that can kill people. The humming intensifies. The machines around us vibrate softly. He glances back at me. Ready? He asks. No, I say. Do it anyway. He hits the final switch. The world explodes. Not literally. The room doesn't blow apart. The machines don't combust. But inside me, something lurches. Heat surges out from my chest in a wave so powerful I scream. My back arches off the bench. Every muscle locks. The rig shrieks as it processes the biochemical storm ripping through my blood. For a terrible, endless moment, I'm sure my bones are going to shatter under the pressure. Gray is there, hands on my shoulders, holding me down, murmuring words I can't hear over the roar in my head. Don't you dare, I hear him say distantly somewhere at the edge of the noise. Don't you dare leave. I just found you. The heat spikes, peaks, and breaks. It feels like falling, like plunging into ice water after standing in the sun too long. My nerves flare and then go blessedly, terrifyingly numb. Everything goes dark. When I wake up, the first thing I notice is the smell. Not mine, not Gray's, not the sharp tang of old electronics or the sterile ghost of cleaned floors. The city, or more precisely, 1,000 little threads of it, drifting down through ancient vents and microcracks in reinforced concrete. Car exhaust, hot metal, wet pavement, cheap perfume, burnt sugar from the night market 3 blocks over. My eyes snap open. The bunker ceiling swims into focus above me. My head aches, but a different ache now. Dull and bearable. My body feels wrung out but present. I'm present. Welcome back, Gray's voice says softly. I roll my head to the side. He's sitting on the floor next to the bench, back against the metal, one knee drawn up, arms draped over it. His tie is gone, top buttons undone, hair a mess. There are shadows under his eyes so deep they could be bruises. He looks wrecked. Did we break the world? I ask, throat raw. A small, disbelieving laugh escapes him. Not completely, he says, but we shook it. I push myself up onto my elbows. The room spins once, then settles. Memories slot into place, not all of them. There are gaps, little holes where certain conversations with my father used to sit the exact route. I took the first time I snuck into his lab, the smell of the soup he used to make on winter days. When I reach for them, I get impressions instead of details. But I know who I am. I know where I am. I know him. Roll call, I say weakly. Name, age, favorite color. He huffs. Seth Halden, 25, and blue. That's my line, I say. I meant me. He looks at me, really looks, searching. You're still you, he says quietly. You were out for 6 hours, your vitals dipped twice, but your neural patterns stabilized at about 60% baseline. Some degradation, but far less than the models predicted. Guess you're informed. Guessing paid off, I say. I'm absurdly glad it did, he says. I blow out a careful breath and let my senses stretch. The building smells different. Not much. Most people here are still deep in the program's embrace. But there are threads now. Subtle. A nurse 2 floors up whose personal scent is no longer completely smothered by suppressants. A technician whose stress cuts through the chemical fog like a thin citrus edge. Outside, the city is coming awake in a new way. People, I say slowly. They're feeling it. The cascade propagated, Gray says. Slowly, controlled. We limited the initial blast, but it's still spreading. Program can't filter what it doesn't recognize, I murmur. It'll fight it, it'll adapt. But not fast enough to crush it completely. We bought time, he says. Maybe a chance. And me? I ask. How much of me did it cost? His gaze softens. Less than I feared, he says. More than I'd like. I try to catalog the missing pieces and stop halfway through. My chest tightens. He reaches up, covers my hand with his. I'll remember with you, he says simply. Stupid man. I blink hard against the burn in my eyes. Admin? I ask after a moment. Security? They know something happened, he says. Network anomalies. Unexpected hormone spikes in patients. People calling. In saying they can smell things they haven't smelled in years. And you, I say. I resigned, he says. I stare. You what? I sent my resignation before we came down here, he says, as if quitting his perfectly constructed life is just a footnote. By the time anyone untangles what we did, I'll be just another name on an old staff list. That's not how witch hunts work, I say. I know, he says, but I'm done pretending the cage is all there is. I lie back down, because sitting up feels like work again. So, I say, staring at the ceiling. Unemployed ex-Dr. Hale. What are you going to do now that you've helped sabotage the cornerstone of modern social policy? A beat. I was considering moving into a chaotic art studio, he says. If its owner will have me. My heart does a weird, unsteady little skip. Rent's terrible, I say. Landlord's worse. I've dealt with worse, he says. I worked for Lyra General. I turn my head to look at him again. He's watching me like I'm something he's still not entirely convinced is real. Like someone who sat at the edge of a bed for 6 hours counting heartbeats and refusing to move in case the next one didn't come. He looked at me like I was worth saving, I think. And this time it doesn't hurt as much. Yeah, I say softly. You can stay. Morning in my studio smells like coffee, paint, and change. The city outside is noisy. More than usual. Somewhere, someone is yelling with real anger, not muted by chemical calm. Someone else is laughing, loud and wild. A couple 2 floors down are arguing on their balcony, the air thick with the sharp, bittersweet tang of fear and love. Gray stands by the window, mug in hand, watching the street below. He's wearing one of my hoodies. It hangs a little looser on him, sleeves pushed up. The sight makes something warm settle under my ribs. I sit at the table, a fresh canvas in front of me, brush in hand. My head still aches, but it's the kind of ache that follows a long cry or a deep stretch. My memories flicker at the edges sometimes, but when I look at him, everything sharpens. I breathe in. You know, I say, under my skin, there's a lot going on. He looks over his shoulder, eyebrow arching. I noticed. Shut up, I say, fighting a smile. What I mean is, there's code and chemicals and my father's bad decisions. There are holes where things used to be. There's a world of wrong and right any ethics committee would have a field day with. I tap the end of the brush against the table, leaving a small blue dot. But you're the only one, I say, who actually feels me, who didn't just look at the file and the risk assessment and see a walking bomb. He turns fully, leaning back against the windowsill. I also smell the paint, he says, and the coffee you burned this morning. I was being poetic, I say. You're ruining the moment. I'm being accurate, he says. You know I'm bad at switching that off. I roll my eyes and get up, carrying my mug to the counter. My legs still wobble. He's there instantly, hand at the small of my back, even though I don't really need it. It's ridiculous how much I like that. This doesn't cancel the romantic part, Gray, I say. Are you sure? He asks. Because the paint smell is very strong. I set my mug down and turn to face him. He's close enough that I have to tilt my head back a little to meet his gaze. The morning light catches the faint stubble on his jaw, the silver thread of a freckle on his cheekbone. His scent is clearer now, less blunted by suppressants. Cooler than mine, sharper, with a steel and rain note that fits him unfairly well. You're impossible, I say. So are you, he replies. Good, I say. We'll match. For once, I don't overthink it. I reach up, hook my fingers in the front of his borrowed hoodie, and tug him down. The kiss is soft, at first. Careful, a question more than an answer. His lips are warm, the hand at my back tightening, the other coming up to cradle. The side of my face like I'm still fragile, and he's afraid to press too hard. I press back. Heat flares. Not the dangerous kind this time. Just the simple, human kind I thought the program had wrung out of the world. When we break apart, we're both breathing a little faster. Well, I say, that's one way to celebrate the end of modern suppression as we know it. I can think of others, he says, a little dazed. Later, I say, I have to paint the revolution first. He huffs out a laugh and kisses my forehead, just once, like he can't help it. Fine, he says. I'll make coffee. Properly, please do, I say. If you're going to stay, I'm going to need you to be useful. He moves to the kitchen area, already muttering about water temperature and grind size. I watch him for a second, then turn back to the canvas. Outside, the world smells different. Inside, under my skin, something has shifted too. For the first time since my father put his hand on my shoulder and asked me to carry a grenade for him, I don't feel like a ticking bomb waiting to go off. I feel like a person standing at the edge of something new, brush in hand, someone at my back. Maybe we broke the cage. Maybe we cracked ourselves in the process. But when I breathe in, and the air is full of coffee and paint and him, I think, it was worth it.